Well, hello, you guys, and I hope you guys are doing well this Saturday night. Before I completely end my day, I do want to talk about something because, of course, this is something that's constantly discussed. I won't say in my inner circle, but in a community that I am in. And if you do not know that community, you have to figure out what community I'm talking about. Okay, how you doing? And so either way, you guys, something that I want to say two things. So Tuesday, you guys, I'll be doing some teas on Tuesday. I did said check out the blog spot by a certain date. You will see new price for case workouts, all this other good stuff. For sure, you will be seeing it by tomorrow night. Okay, May the 11th. Happy Mother's Day as well for all you mothers out there. Hope you guys are doing well. But also going into you guys. Anyway, there's just going to be some updates. So of course, I'll come back, maybe even post a community posting. So check out the blog spot for you to see the information about the new prices of casework and also the good stuff. I think a lot of people get confused about the pricing and all that. And I said, I need to make it simplified. I want it to be cute. I want it to be funny. I want it to be, yeah. So we're going to be simple, straight to the point. And, that's that. So you guys, something I've been kind of thinking about, I came across a video that was very interesting to me. And I always tell people this, what is good for the goose is good for the gander, right? This is like my favorite saying. And it's my favorite saying because I feel like if we're going to have a mindset for if we're going to have a mindset, right? A mindset it's like a part of it's a part of your traits. If you're going to have a particular mindset on something, right, then that mindset has to supersede or it has to be cleared across the board, right? If you feel that it is wrong for people to call people out their name, you're going to see that in all ways, all shapes. You're going to see that, for what it is. If you're against, inequality, you're going to recognize, you're going to see that and you're going to also fight for that. You're also going to, say your piece or whatever on that. But I feel like people are so confused. People are in a constant state of confusion. And it's almost for me, and I told y'all this, like, it's almost me for a personal level. Like I can only deal with individuals who have sought out assistance for any type of trauma or any type of, program they possibly receive, and I think everyone has suffered from that. So I don't need to go into details about what I mean by that. I mean, a good example could be, you grew up your whole life feeling like you were in the wrong body. You were still forced to live your life as a man. And then as you got older, you became the woman that you are. And of course, you feel free now, but you still have trauma. You still have things, residual energy that blocked you and that, basically messed you up, made you feel some type of way. And so, though you feel free now, down the line, those old feelings are going to come back and haunt you. Okay. And so that's what I feel for people, right? Or, in general, because that's how I feel. And I think sometimes we see people how we see ourselves. And I'm going to say most of the time. So I stumbled across a video of a so-called trans person who identify as a non-binary. And y'all, this is my opinion on this. And of course, I'm not going to be bashing non-binary people. Okay. But this is my belief on this. And trauma, I feel like West Coast, LGBTIQ people, East Coast LGBTQ, I feel like all the coasts, all the regions, I feel like the LGBT people are different. Okay. I don't think that West Coast, LGBT plus is the same type of energy as the Southern LGBT plus. I think that a lot of Southern LGBT people suffer from a lot of trauma. Of course, going in from the racial segregation, that's still kind of being a thing out there. And then being of, LGBT, you're an oppressed group within an oppressed group. And so you gotta, kind of like fight, 10 times harder to be you. And so, even in turn, these people will project their hate for themselves outward to people, right? And they will attack other LGBT people, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, I'm not saying that the West Coast LGBT people and East Coast LGBT people don't attack each other. I'm just saying from my experiences, from the things that I've had, conversations I've had with other girls all around the world, they've had some type of issue with a Southern, LGBT person. And of course, I told y'all too, in my opinion, Southern LGBT people tend to allow people to disrespect them, including family and friends. West Coast, the East Coast, or Northern, individual, they're not going to really accept that type of shit. If the family disown them, the family disrespect them, they're more likely to walk away and not deal with those family members again. But the Southern people, they will allow their mothers and fathers to misgender them, just for the sake of, I love my mama. Hold on. So, I stumbled across a video of two individuals having a conversation. And it's not two things. And I want to do this too. I would love to have a panel or something, y'all, in the near future. Maybe I'll reach out. Maybe you're interested. You can always, send me an email. And I'll actually exclusively talk about this. Maybe, beforehand, leading up to this. And then, of course, like I said, if you know someone or you're somebody who wants to come in and talk about it, maybe you are someone who identifies non-binary, whatever. You can always come up and we can have a conversation about things. So I love being educated on things. I love educating people on things. And so either way, I saw these two individuals who was kind of giving like mixed signals. One was saying that they were intersex, but for layman's term, they identify as trans people. I understand that because that's, the same thing with myself. For layman's terms, I will identify as transsexual, right? Transgender. And of course, I'm starting not to use the word transgender because, of course, I'm going to take out very lightly what these definitions are and just really how society could like program you and, create confusion, even within people who know who they are. And so two things as people said, they were going in and out of using the word intersex, for the word trans. On top of that, one of the so-called individuals who identified as trans also said they're non-binary. And then, of course, they started going into them. We're going to go back around to the Southern LGBT, statement and where I was going with that. But they were saying that they were non-binary and that people gagged because, they're a trans person, they're a femme queen. And people are like, I don't see you as a non-binary because people typically consider non-binary people, white liberals. And of course, they were like, that's not true. Black people also blah, 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 blah. Now, I do believe this, y'all, and I said this before and I will continue to say this again. I think that the LGBT community, LGBTQIA plus community, especially those from the South, I feel like the West Coast were a little more rebellious. When it comes down to energies, whether it is gang related, religious, sexuality, gender expression, sexual expression, I think the West Coast, that's all the way from Washington down to the Mexican borderline, I think we're a little more rebellious when it comes to certain things, like I said, certain lifestyles. And so we fit outside the norm. We don't allow people to put us in a box. You think that this is what it is, and we show that's not what it is. We show that's what it ain't. I think a lot of LGBT Southern people, Bible Belt, descendants, if you want to call it that, there's some type of trauma with them that it caused them to kind of spew out or take on the slave master or the white folks in the South behaviors, actions, words, and how they interact. Because, we were having this discussion a couple of weeks ago, y'all, and this is something to really think about. The Ebonics that Black people speak sounds very similar to the Ebonics, or excuse me, the improper English that white Southern people speak. And allegedly the white Southern people are the ones that like enslaved and owned the Black folks. And so we were making a connection of how the Southern Black folks be sounding, what they, not jives. There's another way they call it. It's Ebonics, but they call it African American something. I never heard this term before, y'all. It's like African American colloquial language. I don't know. AO, the person said something. I don't know. But we were saying it's so weird how the white folks also talk like that. And the white folks are the ones that taught the black folks allegedly how to read and stuff. And so you kind of mimic what you hear. And if the white folks taught the black folks how to speak, then the black folks started talking like that because the white folks were not educated themselves. And so either way, it goes into the loop of what a lot of these people are doing. This trans person who said that they also identify as non-binary appears to be like in their 30s. I'm going to say 30s. Yeah, I don't know if it's early 30s, mid 30s or whatever, because, a lot of young people look older nowadays. I don't know. But they were saying that, a lot of trans people are non-binary. They don't even know it, right? Bam. They also said that they are non-binary, blah, 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 blah. And of course, they also said that they did not hear the word transgender until they were a kid. And the other one was like, I was like, what? There's a word to describe people like us? And I'm like, I don't know how old these people are. I'm in my mid 30s, and even like as a kid, I've heard certain terminology. The word I heard a lot was transvestite. I mean, that stuff has been used since the 70s. So, I mean, unless you were born in like 1960 or the 1970s, which will make you like 50 plus years old, and these people don't look that way, you've heard of the word transgender. And to even go back to even like Jerry Springer shit in the 90s, they use the word TS and stuff, right? And so if you were born in the 80s, let's say we'll say 1980, you were a teenager when Jerry Springer and stuff was out. So you've heard these terms before. And so what I think for me is that these people, LGBT, QIA, folks, Southern folks, and we could even say ethnic colored folks, of the South, Asian, Hispanic, or whatever, they kind of spew out what they've heard from their ancestors that was spewed out by their masters and those who, helped them who hired them to be domestic servants or et cetera, et cetera. And so even going into the word non-binary, because I have to look this up, y'all, like it's a term that's been used indirectly. And this is so amazing. And this is why I'm really like bringing this up, right? To, feed into my theory of what I told you we talked about how the white folks don't want to talk to black folks in the South how to speak. And even going into how the black folks, even modern day, the so-called black folks who hate white folks still do the rhetoric and spew the same ignorance that white folks, spewed out to black folks back in the day, even as early as the 1950s and 60s. And so either way, some of them are over here in California too, that, spew out that nonsense, that bullshit, girl. Then they wonder why they ain't, anyway, that ain't my business. But y'all, the term non-binary was first used by an activist who just so happened is a trans, let me get this correct, a outed trans lesbian. So this individual was born anatomically male. They transitioned into being a female, and then they decided to date females. Getting to the bottom line of it without the hocus pocus and sugarcoat shit and speaking indirectly. Because like I said, this is a white individual that came up with this term non-binary. There's no ethnic people. I even have to do a little research because, I'm very, familiar with the indigenous terms and stuff. Y'all, I've dated Polynesian people, Fa'afafini, Mahus, I've heard these terms. But it was trying to say that the first noted term for a non-binary person was a Mahu. And the Mahu, check this out, the Mahu / Two-Spirited, that's why I said we're going to be rebranding our name because, baby, at the end of the day, we know what it is over here. There's no confusion here, right? And so we're speaking of energetically speaking. We're not talking about anatomically. We're not talking about mentally or physically. But the word Mahu, they actually said, according to Wikipedia, was the first time that the word non-binary was described in literature. Now, y'all, let's go back to American history. The most shocking thing to me that I found out was that a lot of information that we have right now about animals. Oh my God, y'all, this is some deep ass shit right now. And I want to keep it light because I want to, I don't want to be here too long. It's a little late for me. But in 1977, they interviewed a Southern because they were trying to understand the dialects of America. They were trying to figure out why the West Coast sounded different from the East Coast, the Northern, all this other good stuff, right? And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. We know why. If somebody don't speak a language properly, then they start learning they start teaching people how to speak this language. Then these people are going to start sounding like them. Now, before you know, they're going to start saying ka, do, leak, balk, low. And you're like, what the hell is balk, low, do, leak? And girl, they're talking about car and look and all sorts of good shit. And even so, that some of them come from the South and they come to the West Coast or whatever. They learn English from like University of Berkeley, and then they go back to the South, and they sound like they're from fucking California. Now you could still hear their Southern accent, but they are more, they can pronounce car, they can say walk, they can say take me. They say it how it is, and so either way. In this interview, the interviewer did not even know what the word snow leopard was. It was a foreign word to this Caucasian middle-class interviewer. When this Southern, I'm not going to say what they called him, sitting here speaking his language and, the way he talks and, fun day for me will be, talking like that. They were gagged that this boy, because of course he's with these animals, he's into animal stuff, baby. He go to school, he reads, he writes, he's fresh with that. He knew what a snow leopard was, but this interviewer did not. And they were saying that a lot of things that we know right now were not put into writing until like the late 70s, the early 80s. And so everyone is thinking that, we're going to say this, that, English and American English is so perfect, it's so good, it's so this, so that. But the English that we speak now, y'all, especially in 2025, well, they're trying to dumb us down and shit with the shit. What's that? The English that we learned in the 90s and the early 2000s stuff, y'all, was like barely like 20-something years old. Like, it was amazing for us to learn what a cat, a dog, a snow leopard, a cheetah, a cougar, a mountain lion, these things and what it looked like, y'all. Like, it's amazing, even though, like in 1950, 1960, they wasn't teaching this to our grandparents and our parents. And if you're, born in that era, to you. So it wasn't that our parents and our grandparents was not paying attention in school. It was that they were not taught these things. They were not taught these things. And even college graduate people did not even know what the fuck a snow leopard was, y'all. Do your research. If you think I'm making this shit up, do your research. And so that gagged the fuck out of me. But going back into these two colored or ethnic trans people, to say that trans people are non-binary because you're not fitting the norm of what a male or female is. And like I said, I do want to have an open panel for this. And, everyone is welcome to come, cisgendered, natal, trans, non-trans, gay, whatever. Listen, we can have discussions about sexuality and all this good shit, y'all, because y'all, listen, I think everybody needs to be educated on certain things. So, baby, we could be respectful to each other, but also do it in love. Because, see, baby, let's talk about it right now. When somebody is doing better, somebody don't know better, you're going to teach them better, and then you're going to expect better from them. Once you teach them what it is and they still decide to do what it is that they do, then at that point, they're intentionally doing things to fuck shit up. Going into the word non-binary, the Mahus, let's get into that. The Mahus, because as they said, that's the first documented word, quote unquote, for non-binary was the Mahus. The Mahus was, because of course they didn't have surgery in the 1700s, y'all. If somebody felt like they were an opposite gender than what they were, they did not have surgeries. They did not have, hormones. They had plants and stuff, like even going into the Native Americans, the Bradash and stuff. They had herbs like saw palmetto, black cohosh, that were phytoestrogens, even, consuming certain body parts of certain animals that allowed these people to be, to present themselves as the opposite sex, but they still had certain roles. They still were male, identifying. They just had female or, even going into the, the females born female, they took on male roles, but they still had female bodily function. A lot of them were still having babies normal as well. Those were the non-binaries. Those are the ones that saying, I'm living my life as a female, even though I acknowledge I was born a man, I'm still going to do manly things. And this is where the confusion coming out, because we have a lot of trans men still trying to get pregnant. We have a lot of trans women still impregnating people. And that would be classified as the modern day non-binary. Using the word transsexual and the word trans identity, that's a whole separate energy, right? And so even going into, y'all can look this up as well, of why I said that Black people will spew what they're taught by their slave masters. And because they didn't expect Black people to be educated, they didn't expect Black people to know anything. It took white people to teach Black people things. It took white people to educate Black people in history on things, right? This is alleged, y'all, because this is not factual. I don't believe this is factual. I think that Black people taught white people some things, but of course, history is history. And like I said, we're not going to get into that. And so you have modern day Black folks, trans to be exact, LGBT identity, to then take on the term non-binary, because you have a person named Jamie Shupa or Alyssa Ray Shupa or Shupi, which, by the way, if you look up this individual who had the non-binary, which was an unmarked gender, who just so happened decided to detransition, who just so happened was against trans people being in the military. And they were very vocal about it, by the way. So this tells me that the term non-binary is very separate from the term transsexual. Now, I do feel like these words could be used interchangeably depending on the person and how they're displaying or how they're having conversation. But I do think there's a difference between what a non-binary is and what a trans is. But due to people being confused, people being led, people are being followers and not leaders. People are saying that the word transgender, they barely heard about when they were young. And like I said, this is a 30-year-old person. The word transgender has been used since the motherfucking 60s. The word transsexual, 1920s. Baby, non-binary was not used into the American English until 2016 by Alyssa Ray Shupi, which just so happened is, and I'm not saying, but I am saying, appeared to be a white man who had some type of psychological issues or trauma growing up. Y'all, this is in their story. I'm not projecting this. And so you know your story. You know who you are. You know what you felt like. And because this person said the new term is non-binary, now you're also gravitating towards that. And with someone like me who knows who I am, who always knew who the fuck I was, I didn't have to get beaten into this. I didn't have to be touched into this. I didn't have to be forced to see some fucked up ass shit. I wasn't forced to conversion or any of that, that this is who I am. This is my identity. It was set in motherfucking stone and blood for me by my motherfucking ancestors, baby. When I tell you that I don't need a white man, a black woman, a black man, baby, to tell me who I am. Now, getting into gravitating towards what it could be, I can tell you what I am, what I feel, and then you can go ahead and tell me what it is. But I am not going to gravitate towards something that came out in 2016 or in 2025, and I'll be fighting with people that's something considered new. When there's been people out here that was fighting the Stonewall. There's people out here fighting for the rights. People out here going to courts to get shit changed. And of course, like I said, that's where I'm at with that. So it's never been about the person who's experiencing this so-called non-binary, because before 2016, what did you consider yourself? Did you say, I don't really know who I am? And if you are that person who felt like you know who you are, did you see therapy? Have you sought therapy? Because even going into a lot of people who have detransitioned, they either have never seen a therapist before they transitioned, or they've seen a therapist after they start self-medicating. And then what ended up happening is once they went to therapy, they realized that they were not actually trans, that they were just a gay man who had feminine things. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is considered a mahu. That, ladies and gentlemen, is considered a non-binary. And so that's where the differences come in at. And that's where it's important for us to even educate ourselves about what things are. Like I said, I was a little confused when I saw this person who appeared to be in their 30s. They're definitely not 50, saying that they never heard of the word transgender until they became like a teenager. And I'm just like, girl, like, where were you at? Because my city, there's not open gay people in my city like that. I mean, now it's things are changing, but even like as early as 2008, 2009, 2010, you didn't see, femme people parading around my city, honey. You didn't see them out here Shazan. Girl, you had people waiting to get your ass when you got off that bus for being gay. You had people jumping people and shit, girl. Can we talk about it? You had DL people catfishing because they did not want to be outed for being a motherfucking homosexual. Can we talk about it? Even in 20 motherfucking 10. So in my city, Stockton, California, to be exact, 15 years ago, you barely started seeing people be a little more open to it. Even now on the grinders and all that good stuff, y'all, people are barely open to showing their face. In 2015, just 10 years ago, you had 97% of those profiles with no picture on it or they were catfishing. And this is in the state of California. So, baby, and I knew what the word transgender and transsexual was since 2005. Can we talk about it? Can we talk about it? I was a teenager. So all I'm saying is that, baby, when we play dumb, we win dumb prizes. When that's a whole nother thing. I'm not going to get into that. It's important for us to know who we are and know where we come from so no one has to tell your story for you. Like I said, a lot of people are allowing people to tell their story, and it's unfortunate. Even going into the word, and y'all, I'm going to look up some T's here as well. A lot of people are really confused about gender because of the sexual expression. A lot of people are not even familiar with the word sexual expression. If you're someone like me, I mean, I should try to do something with sexology and stuff, honey, because I'm so in tune with energies and stuff and sexual expression and stuff, y'all. You know that people who are healthy, well, first of all, let me educate you on this. Let's get into sexual expression. I know you never heard that word, huh? Sexual expression? You ever heard that word? Let's get into the word sexual expression. Okay, not sexual orientation, sexual expression. You ready? Sexual expression is the ways in which individuals manifest and communicate their sexual desires, thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. It encompasses a broad range of aspects, including physical intimacy, emotional intimacy, sexual fantasy, gender expression, sexual orientation. And by the way, these are all different things. Let's break this down. Physical intimacy is described as physical contact such as kissing, touching, and sexual intercourse. There's a lot of gay men who have had sex with women. They don't feel like they're straight, though, because they still identify as gay. And of course, that goes to something totally different. But their physical intimacy does attract somebody of the opposite sex, which, if that was the case of what sexuality is, then that would be a heterosexual, situation. But either way, going into emotional intimacy, see, baby, because when you know better, you do better. Emotional intimacy is sharing sexual feelings, desires, and experiences with another person. Y'all, I'm not sitting here having a conversation about what positions I like and how I like to do it. It's okay. I'm not going on the thing. Don't worry about it. But listen, baby. I'm not about to sit here and share with you my emotional intimacy. And I like to this and I like to that and I like it. Like, baby, I might drop some cues, here and there and da 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 da. But baby, you're not going to get to know me on an intimate level emotionally. And girl, now you got me dickmatized and shit. See, that's how y'all get fucked up right there. See, they get y'all dickmatized shit because they fuck with your emotional intimacy. And when your emotional body, first of all, when you don't know what you like, when you don't know what your real sexual desires are, or you don't really have sexual experiences, you're easily able for people to emotionally whip your ass, people to get you emotionally attached to them. And that's what it comes down to. A lot of you lack experiences. A lot of you don't really know what you are and who you like because, you didn't have time to spend by yourself. You didn't, really, spend time with yourself, get to know yourself, isolate yourself. And so, unfortunately, this is why you're fucked up emotionally. When it comes to emotional intimacy, you're kind of fucked up in that area. Going into sexual fantasies, imagining sexual scenarios or activities, y'all, this is all healthy, by the way. Sexual fantasies. Yeah, people don't have sex. Some people, what is your sexual fantasy? I don't know. What is that? I'm vanilla. First time somebody tell me that, baby, you're out of here. I'm not being with, I'm vanilla. Well, baby, stay vanilla over there, dear bitch. Bah. Going into gender expression, how individuals present their gender through clothing, mannerisms, and behavior. Y'all, gender expression is not just by putting on certain clothes, it is presenting their gender through clothing, mannerisms, and behavior. If you're presenting as a woman, you're acting like a woman, your mannerisms of a woman, your gender expression is female. Can we talk about it? You cannot say that your gender expression is female when you're still acting like a male. And of course, going into that too, I'm gonna wrap that up with that. Listen, because it just popped up again. Going into the term sexual orientation. Sexual orientation, the gender or genders to which an individual is sexually or romantically attracted to. Okay, sexual orientation means if you look at a woman's, body parts or breasts, and you are a female and you find that hot, you are sexually attracted to this woman. That's part of your sexual orientation. Now, if you want to be cute and say you're bisexual, it's a part-time attraction, it's a 50%, it's a 25%, you don't really get it, whatever, girl, so be it. Okay, same thing with these bromance, homosexuals type of shit, girl. I'm gonna get that book that I had back then, y'all, where it broke down these type of men and shit, honey, so y'all can learn some tea. Oh, but anyway, going into sexual behavior, y'all, this is a whole nother category. Actions that express sexual desires, such as bata la cara, bata la boca, that type of thing, honey. Such as touching yourself, foreplay, and also sexual intercourse, y'all. Some of y'all have fucked up ass sexual behaviors, and this is why diseases are very, prominent. This is why a lot of, PrEP needs to be taken. Even on top of that, y'all, you can't change the experience and say, baby, oh, see, that's the cut in right there. People ain't gonna fucking like. They don't like to hear the truth, though. But see, mama gonna explain to you some things right here, baby. See, it's the behavior that got to change. It's not the fact that you like to take it, you like to give it with a lot of people that got you sick or got you, risky of getting something. Because they already said, man, oh man, there's an increased risk of getting some type of, incurable diseases. But it's the behavior that has to change. It's the mindset that has to change. And baby, with all this PrEP shit right now, and I know what y'all gonna do as a side note to my LGBT people out there that's on PrEP and shit out here fucking raw and shit because you on PrEP. I'm sorry, we got to put it out there. Let's talk about it. Y'all still fucking raw and shit because you on PrEP. I don't know what y'all gonna do with this man in this office. Stop giving y'all PrEP or he gonna charge y'all $3,000 a pill. Girl, listen, listen, girl, the behavior's gotta change. I was having a conversation not too long ago. So, baby, I'm not a snitch. I just said how it is. I told y'all, my neighbor right here, allegedly he works for the city. I don't know if this is true or not, but, he's the girl said he's a known person. And so either way, baby, I was sitting here calculating as a, just a private person that watches because, of course, I'm watching, baby. I'm a single woman with 2 fur babies and, girl, I got to keep a lookout on my house. I got cameras everywhere. And so I was noticing that this person was having like 3 people. It used to be like 6 people a day come up over there. And then it went down to 3 people a day. And it's never the same person. And so I started calculating. I'm like 3 times, maybe we'll say that give or take one day out of the week. People aren't going over like that one day out of the week. I think like even at a period of time, like 2 weeks, I didn't see nobody go over there. But we'll say over a 4-year period, 5 times 360, y'all. That's how many sexual partners this motherfucker has had. And I'm like, that's kind of scary. That's kind of scary, girl. So anyway, the behavior got to change, y'all. That's how we're going to stop the spreading of STDs and HIV and stuff, honey. Stop fucking and sucking on everything because you horny, bitch. Go see a therapist for that shit. Anyway, sexual identity, y'all. A person's sense of their own gender. See, that's another thing, too. My sexual identity is. It says sexual identity is a person's sense of their own gender and sexuality. So your sexual identity, not gender identity, your sexual identity is your own gender and sexuality. what you are self-proclaiming. Your sexual gender has nothing to do with me. If you see yourself as a beautiful swan and you know, that's your business, not mine. I don't see you as that, so whatever. But y'all, sexual sexual expression is healthy, right? When people have a healthy sexual expression, they know how to respect themselves and others when it comes down to sexual expression. Y'all, one way of having like bad sexual expression, I'm gonna say this too, because depression, people who have you know, issues with their sexual expression, you know, suffer from, you know, depression, extreme anxiety, and they're also more prone to, you know, have, you know, suicidality, surosinidia. You get what I'm saying? Suicidality. And so at the end of the day, it's because the own connection with self is not there. Baby, I'm not gonna do anything to myself as a healthy sexual expressive person, just because you see it, you don't see me as something else. You see me as a man still, girl, that's your tea, not mine. Now, don't get in my face and don't touch me, because, baby, that'd be a whole other fucking issue there. Then you might end up 6 feet under, baby. I'm sorry. I had to put it out there, bitch. And that's not a threat. That's a promise. But you saying it over there, that's your business, not mine. Bitch, you can call me. Listen, you call me out my name, I call you out yours. You call me a dad, I can call you a dad. Let's talk about what's good for the good for the game. That's what I'm for it all, baby. Hello. Let's get into it. But the individual who was talking about they never heard of the word trans. Oh, let me say this too before I do this. So that's sexual expression, y'all. Let's get into the word transsexual. Transsexual is a transgender person who has undergone a gender reassignment, or denoting or relating to a transgender person, especially one who has undergone gender reassignment. So a transsexual is somebody who is pre-op, non-op, or post-op. Post-op is sexual reassignment. Non-op is you're getting on the surgeries, you're taking the hormones, getting the breasts, having surgeries, but you're not planning on having the sexual reassignment surgery. And pre-op means you're prepping for the sexual reassignment surgery. If you're not on the hormones, if you don't ever plan on getting the surgery or getting on the hormones, you are not considered a transsexual, a TS. You are considered what they call a transgender. Now let's get into the shot, because I have to educate myself on that, because transgender been around since 1969, and I'm saying transgender because people are putting, oh, she's a transgender woman. No, bitch, I'm a motherfucking transsexual, baby. Watch your motherfucking mouth, okay, baby? What? Watch your motherfucking mouth. Transsexual, not transgender. Okay, it says right here, transgender refers to individuals whose gender identity or internal sense of being, male or female, non-binary, differs from sex that they were assigned as birth. And it says a person who has gender non-binary. So non-binary person is technically considered a transgender still. See, that's how you see before Lisa and Ricky Wixton, Wiki is his name, Ricky, let me see, or excuse me, it's her name, you know, is they name, you know, it name. And by the way, y'all, definition of it. By the way, you know, that's not offensive, girl. If you take it offensive, we're going to call a spade what it is. So, you know, girl, that's not what I said. I said definition of it, girl, and they playing with me. Definition of it, respectfully. It depends on the context. Generally, it is a pronoun used to refer to something that is not a person, or that is a person of an unspecific gender. So a non-binary person is actually considered an it. So baby, with all due respect, y'all, listen, bitch, fight me if you want to. It, okay? It said that Ricky Rochi, I don't know, transgender lesbian, I don't know. No one started using that word non-binary until they started like really putting out there. They said 80s and in the 90s. And then Lisa, you know, who actually denounced, you know, her sexuality, she went back to being a man, and then she transitioned, and then she passed away as a transgender person. of non-surgical experience, I guess that's the correct term to say, they were actually in the military and they actually were fighting their urges to put on women's clothing. Now, anybody out there who is a transsexual, please tell me that's your story. That was never my story about an urge of putting on women's clothing, all the good shit. I felt like the women's clothing just kind of put the ice on the cake, baby, but I've always moved, acted, and behaved like a woman, like a lady. I went out here acting bangy, jumping on trees, swinging from poles and shit. I went out here running and playing in traffic. I wasn't playing football with the boys. I wasn't getting dirty and muddy. I didn't like to sweat when I was a kid. Can we talk about it? So I don't know what that's like, but they said that they were, fighting to be a female as they got older. Then they decided to be, non-binary because they still felt like they had the male role. They wanted to still do male things, but they did not want to be, only a man. So they fought to get their shit. They sued in court too, by the way, to get their gender mark changed to unspecified gender, also known as neutral. And then, of course, outside of that, they then went back to their male birth. By the way, this is from 2016 to 2020. They went back to their male birth while everybody started using the word non-binary. After that, can we talk about it? 2017, it was put out there, non-binary. A white male, by the way. And then after that, they ended up, transitioning. So they were transsexual, and then they became non-binary, and then they went back to being a male, and then they decided to continue on their transition, and then they passed away, wrapped in a transgender flag, not a non-binary flag, by the way. They passed away. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine somebody coming out with a term that a lot of people are coining and using to then just be buried with a transgender flag? Don't they have a non-binary flag out there? I think they do. I think the flag has been around since the 80s too. Don't quote me on that. It's been the 80s or the 90s. They have a non-binary flag out there, by the way. But and then they took their own life, and they put, I don't know why they took their own life, but it said something. Well, they were suffering from PTSD for what it said, and of course, it's speculations. But it said that they also did not want to be buried as a they didn't want a veteran burial. I mean, girl, it is what it is, girl. And so just a lot going on with that, all that. But either way, Miss Thing, this girl, this lady, and I know it feels like I'm going everywhere, y'all, because there's a lot to cover in a short amount of time. But this individual was saying that it's offensive because I'm always willing to stand corrected. I mean, if that's the case, I think it's offensive for you to call me that I need glasses. I think I need to go fight, with the Optometrist Association. Hey, Google, what is the Optometrist Association in America? Okay, the American Optometrical Association. I'm gonna have to write them so I can get that taken out too. Don't call glasses. Call it visual assistance. How about that? Let's get into it. And so either way, this person said, because they said they're non-binary, femme queen. By the way, femme queen is a term used for drag queen, by the way, y'all. Femme queen is a basically like a drag queen, right? I've used femme queen before, y'all, and it's not really what it is. Living as a woman and living as a woman and being your woman self, girl, you're not a femme queen. Femme queen is somebody who lives as a woman, who acts like, who lives as a woman, who presents as a woman, but still do gay male things. That's a femme queen. And so they were saying that it's offensive to not call them it instead of call them their name. Because of course, I'm on this girl that said, I'd rather call a non-binary their name than to call them then, they, and there, because you're one person. So, and then also going into that too, when I'm describing someone, I'm not going to say they said, them said, Zare said, I'm going to say Stacey would like, so either way, they said that. And then of course, when the person said, well, I think it's offensive. And they were like, but, this is to the friend. And they were like, but who are you? You're not the gender police. Who are you to police people on their gender? And I'm like, well, I guess that works for all things, as because I'm for that. What's good for the goose, good for the gander. if we're gonna have that mindset of like who picked you as the gender police to fight with people about wanting to be called she or her, and you're like, well, I don't feel I don't feel comfortable, or them and there because that's my new gender. I don't feel comfortable. I'm gonna call them their name. Well, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. So if you have that mindset for that, I mean, you should have that mindset for everything. It should be for everything, not just that. Oh well, I will prefer to call the church that than that. Okay, the same thing, girl, with anything, with any terminology, any usage, any verbiage, right? It should be used all the way. Like I don't think I want to call people this because that might be offensive to them. So I'm going to ask them: Are you Hispanic? Or are you indigenous? Like, girl, let's talk about it. Because, girl, we're going to sit there and play cute. We're going to play cute. Like, girl, you know, goddamn well, you sit in your motherfucking house or you talking, oh, it was a Hispanic male, 5'11", blah, blah, blah. How you know he was Hispanic? How you know he was Nation? Come in, let's talk about it. Bitch, you want us to be politically correct on them, they, and there. Bitch, how you know they're Hispanic? Are they indigenous? Maybe you should ask them. So that's what I'm going to start doing, y'all. If I'm going to start being respectful and saying, what is your pronouns? And because you don't want me to call you your name, Marissa, Jenny, Michael, you want your girl back. You're going to say, my name is Michael, but my pronouns is them, then, there. I don't use pronouns she and her anyway. I don't do that. Anybody who knows me personally can tell you that. I say their name. If it's an uncomfortable situation, I might say her or his to let them know that this is a woman or man that I'm dealing with. But outside that, baby, I say their name. Oh, Sherry said. Oh, Lachey said. Oh, Michaela said. Oh, Kitty said. Like, that's what I say, girl. I don't say she said, they said. That's a little broken up anyway. That's a little ebonic, I don't know, girl, who is they? When you're talking to a police or something and you say, you start out, Michelle and I was walking down the street and I told her, they're going to say, who is her? Michelle. So guess what? You got to put Michelle. Every time you want to say her, you say Michelle. Michelle and I was walking to the store. Michelle then asked me, why was I going to the store? I told Michelle that I wanted to. Yes, it gets redundant, but you need to let us know who the fuck is her and she. So that's how I talk. So I'm like, baby, what I'm gonna start doing, I'm gonna start saying that. Are you are you okay with the what is your ethnicity description? Are you Chinese? Are you Asian? Or are you indigenous to the Asian culture? Let me know. Girl, maybe you Red Dragon, maybe you Su Yang, maybe you Su Vang. I don't know. But that's how we're gonna start being, baby. Let's make it even across the board. Let's be respectful in all ways, shape, or form. When we see a big person, don't call them fat or overweight. Say there's somebody with a little extra package on them. Or better yet, you ask them, excuse me, how would I describe you if I was telling a story about you? And let them tell you, well, say I was a voluptuous, curvy. Like, that's what I'm for, y'all. Let's change the language all across the board. Let's be respectful to everybody. Each one teach one. If I'm respectful to you, instead of me saying the black man, instead of me saying the Asian man, who knows? Maybe you want to be considered a king. Is that your pronoun? Is it king? Okay, the king. The brown skin king. Oh, excuse me. Are you brown or you copper? That's the girl. Listen, let's be respectful. And I'm being serious right now. Let's be respectful to everyone, baby. Because like I said, I feel like a lot of people just be wanting entitlement and privilege. They don't want to be wanting equality. I'm about equality, girl. If you don't call, like I said, if you gonna call somebody a bald headed black bitch, they call you a strong ass tranny bitch. Like, girl, what? If you call somebody the N word, they call you whatever they call you too. Like, girl, I'm for that. An eye for an eye, bitch. Okay, an eye for an eye. And I also feel on the same token, if you're calling somebody the N word, everybody can use the word N word. I'm for that too. And I mean that. If you're calling somebody a spook, they can call you a spook. You calling somebody a dookadoo, they call you a dookadoo too. Girl, you can't pick and choose. Well, I'm saying it because I'm getting my power back. Girl, what power you got? What power you got, bitch? Girl, you speaking the language that they taught you, girl. You will take your power back, you will learn your native tongue. You take your power back, girl, you'll get a passport and go visit your history. And that being another thing too, girl. These girls out here getting 23s and these and shit. Have y'all went over there to Cameroon? Hey, y'all got a passport, went over to go see your people in Senegal, Ghana and shit. Have y'all went over there to go see your culture where your ancestors came from and all that? Because that's what I'm kind of thinking about here. Like that's taking your power back. Learn it. Maybe even buying the foods and cooking the food instead of eating their shit. Because they said the diet and shit is fucked up too. They said the American diet is not a healthy diet. And I'm like, well, the real American diet is a healthy diet. It was nuts, seeds, and trees and shit, herbs and shit. The Native Americans to this land, they ate seeds, nuts, some animals, well, some tribes ate animal like deer, elk, venison and all that. And so maybe we need to go back to those diets and maybe the American diet will be that. So are we saying the American diet or are we saying after the colonization America, after the colonized America? Like I said, let's go spin this way, y'all. I mean, let's resurrect it all, girl. Let's resurrect it all, baby. Girl, let's keep it real. And girl, let's shine a light on it all. Baby, we're gonna if you want us to speak right to you, speak right to us. That's what I'm for, baby. And like I said, my mama taught me that. She said, baby, be respectful to those who be respectful to you. If it's an elder woman and she call you out your name, you can call out her name. And sometimes, baby, I'll be fighting with that girl. When they used to say stupid shit, like I remember there was an old lady that called me an idiot. Cause girl, I couldn't help her get something out the motherfucking trash. And I was fighting in my spirit. I was like, do I want to call this bitch an old hag? Because I heard that before in the movie. And I was like, do I want to call her an old hag? Or do I want to just go tell somebody to come up here and read her? And bitch, I went home and tell my mama. I said, Mama, Miss whatever called me an idiot because blah, blah. My mom said, she called you a what? Girl, my mama went stumping over there. And my mom was talking about, and I was like, Mama, and call her an old hag. And my mom was like, with your nasty as you old hag. And baby, I remember, I'll never forget that. Baby, that was so fun for me, honey, to let my mom, because I'm like, girl, my mama called her old hag. I did it. She did on behalf of me, girl. You okay? Mama, call her old hag. Mama, tell me that she's so old that her left tooth about to fall out. Okay. Anyway, y'all. That's it, y'all. A date. Like I said, it'll be on the blog spot. Tuesday, honey. We'll be dropping some midnight mental. Baby, listen, we do two or three drops on the day, y'all. Listen, okay? And as y'all like I said, a bitch has been busy. You can still always reach out to me. A lot of you still do. Shout out to those who been sending me emails. Hey, Mr. What you got going on? Ha, ha, ha. Girl, shout out to y'all. Okay, shout out to those who are still be getting their work done. Girl, leveling up, doing their thing. And girl, that's really it. We did. Anyway, y'all. Yeah, that's it. So that's it, y'all. I do want to have an open panel, like I said, about some tea, y'all. One of will definitely, I would like to get into sexuality, sexual, expression, all that good stuff, y'all. Like I said, girl, listen, we're moving on. We're moving into a whole new level of energy, girl, manifesting. See, a lot of y'all out there, like I said, girl, you don't know your sexual power. And this is why you're doing T spells and glamour spells ain't working. Because baby, I'm gonna bind down a man, girl. I need to bind down a man who's a billionaire. See, that's type of teaching I want. See, a lot of people out here got, and and y'all, I'm not even that type of person. I'm not here to expose people. But I'm just gonna say this. And by the way, I'm drinking black tea with lemon right now. Girl, back up. Uncle Matt's organic half and half black tea lemonade. The last bit, y'all. It's been in the refrigerator for like 6 days. I was like, girl, let me drink this. But one of these YouTubers, because girl, listen, mama got the tea on all these girls, honey. All of them, girl. That's why the girl, they couldn't sit down with me, girl. Okay. Oh, they couldn't sit down with me, baby. Because like I said, girl, I will. And then that's why I be asking too. Is there any spiritualists out there on YouTube? In the black sector of YouTube, I didn't know there was such thing as that, but the black sector of YouTube who don't have a criminal record, who can have a conversation with me, who's been doing this for a very, very long time. I would like to have some, I would like to have a conversation with you as well, and kind of, kind of see where your headspace is at and what happened to you when you needed money and shit, and how you survived all that. But either way, one of your favorite spiritualists out there, who's barely starting to get shine. She's been around for a very long time, but she's barely starting to get her shine. And kudos to her, girl, because I don't hate on nobody's success and all that, girl. If you got your success by climbing on people's backs and shit, girl, or using people. Anyway, girl, madams and shit, girl. Listen, but I was thinking to myself,
I would be embarrassed to tell somebody I'm out here doing glamour spells to keep my man at home when the man that I'm keeping at home and through glamour spell stuff is a fraud. He evades taxes. He's opened up multiple businesses, and you know none of them did well except for the recent one. And also, he was putting names and stuff in his deceased mother's name. Like in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't want to bond down a man that has that. Like, if I'm really bonding and tying down and locking somebody in, like I want a prince of Dubai or something, honey. I would like that somebody girl that that I'll be kept for the rest of my life. I listen. I want to listen. I want to bond down a man girl that can take care of all things that I need. Like that's the type of shit that I would be on. Like, girl, I don't know if it's just the old news, the old way of living, because I do feel like we're living in the New Testament, and so we're seeing things for what it is. But I'm like, girl, people were really excited about hearing about those stories and seeing those stories. And I'm like, that's kind of a minimum mindset. Because you all have the power to manifest a man like that. That's kind of like a pimp or a hustler, right? You all have the mindset to manage to attract a pimp or to manage a hustler, whether he's a credit card hustler, a carsman hustler. Everybody has that mindset, especially if you're good looking. Now, if you're not good looking, I can see you. Well, I'm not going to say that because men, a lot of men like anything, girl. Girl, as long as you got something to give, something, something that gets wet for them, girl, they'll be there. So anyway, I'm not, baby. If I was that, all that, like, in a bag of chips, girl, because I tell people I'm all that with a bag of chips, all that, and like I said, I'm not. I'm speaking in third person, right? But that would be the type of shock factor that I would be blowing y'all's mind with. Like, y'all, this is how I married. This is how I went from a ghetto, like a Megan situation. The one that, Prince Harry's, what's her name? Meckler? Anyway, that type of situation. Now, girl, that's a true life story that somebody can brag about. Mama went from being like a ghetto biracial girl to like a low budget actress to like marrying a prince of a whole nother country, y'all. Like that, now that is the type of manifestation story that we want to motherfucking hear, girl. Yeah, mama need to sit down, give us a channel on how to manifest, how to get that man, dimple dapple. But like I said, somebody that manifested a scammer, a crooked ass, he ain't going to no place but hell when it's his time to go, using deceased mama's information to open a business and shit, filing bankruptcy to evade tax. And listen, I'm not hitting on that girl because Donald Trump did that. That's y'all business, not mine. Hello, that's y'all business, not mine. But I'm like, that's not the type of manifestation I want for my life, where I'm good and then up in my later years, I'm going to have to pay that shit back because they're going to start opening up cases on my husband and shit. Because, baby, it's coming. You know what I mean? It's coming, girl. The roosters are coming home to roost. They're coming home to cock-a-doodle-doo for a lot of these people. You know what I mean? For everybody, not just a lot of people. Everybody is getting a fucking rooster coming to roost, girl. And and all the shit you did is coming back. Baby, there's no running from that. There's no escaping that. Right? Especially on this type of level. You're not a high magician. You're not, manifesting anything on a high level. Even going into somebody who, girl, and it's so crazy how the universe does this too, y'all. And I'm really going to say it's going to be done. There was a spiritual person that I loved back in the day. And I was like, I would like to work with them one day because they seem so LGBT, friendly. They even gave me like they were, the L in the LGBT. And y'all, full circle, I run into somebody and they literally start talking about an experience they had with another spiritual person from California. And they start breaking it down, y'all. Like this, that, this, that, they did that, blah, blah. And we worked together and we da-da-da-da-da and da-da-da. And they just start giving me this rundown, y'all. And I was like, who the hell is this? And when they said the person name, I have to look it up, y'all. I fucking gagged because I've not seen this person's shit for like almost 10 years, for one. For two, I was shocked to see the content they were posting shit, but I'm like, for them to be so magical and so inclined, like they claim they are, why you not owning a business? Why you don't got an EIN for nothing? Why you not ghostwriting for people? Why nobody got you in their back pocket? Unless they lying, because they say they don't do work for clients. They say they don't do work for the modern day person. They said they'll show you how, but they don't do it. And I'm like, well, I think it's because they really don't know how to do it. But I was just like, damn. So that's what it comes down to. Hoes just be playing. And listen, y'all, they just be playing in y'all faces. And like I said, people be thinking that they be so intrigued by that. And I'm like, this is why the community as a whole is not excelling. As a whole, the community is not leveling up. As a whole, the community is still having their inner struggles. And the people who are making it, they're either considered sellouts, whores, or you think they're doing something fraudulent because you're like, well, I've been doing it and it didn't work out for me. But you're going about it the wrong way, babe. That's why. You're going about it the wrong way. And so, anyway, that's it, honey. TrueSpiritMystic.blogspot.com, y'all. Come on in here, King Sheba. How you doing? 23andMe. Yes, honey. 23andMe got a lawsuit going on right now. Oh, what happened? Let's see what's going on. Jay, let's see what's going on. Is it that they were taking people's blood samples and selling it to the government? Charging y'all for the blood samples and then turn around and selling this shit to FBI, corporation shit, and then they got smart and they start opening up their own shit, girl. Girl, they charge y'all $99 to trace your ancestries. And girl, do you know that if you were to do all the work that they did, that would cost you thousands upon thousands of dollars to do? No one ever questioned that. Like, how are you able to do this shit for only $100, $150? Why is this shit not costing me $10,000? It costs $10,000 for somebody to have a baby through surrogacy. Sometimes IVF as well. It costs $10,000+. But mysteriously, y'all can trace back people's markers in other parts of the world for only $100. Who are they getting the information from? Y'all never questioned that. So they being sued for that? That they selling your shit to the government? Let me see. 23andMe lawsuit. So in 2023, allegedly hackers accessed the personal information of nearly 7 million customers. Now, people, I'm gonna need y'all to wake up. I need Americans to stop acting like they so dumb. I need the modern day person to stop acting like they dumb. Like, first of all, they try to make you tired. They try to drug you with the drugs, the alcohol, the liquor, which, by the way, during COVID, more people died of alcohol poisoning and liver damage due to excessive drinking than actually COVID-19. Now, that's the gag of it all, y'all. Do your research. But y'all letting these people have you thinking that somebody said, oh, mind you, no one has ever hacked the police system. Have you ever heard of anybody having their whole record deleted off of the 4425 and the court system? You ever heard somebody say that the court system got hacked and mysteriously 179 files disappeared? Girl, mysteriously, because God works in mysterical ways, mysteriously, somebody said, oh my God, 23andMe got a lot of people's information. But wait, there's more. They got people's information and not credit card and debit. They got something more important. They got people's DNA samples. They got people's blood samples. Y'all didn't think that the hackers was an internal job? Because it said that 23andMe also filed bankruptcy to cover up some of these court cases, these breach of contract. And there's no possible way that 23andMe had an internal contract breach. There's no way that 23andMe, because everybody was hiding. Remember, the pandemic started in 2020. Everybody was on lockdown. Remember in 2023, they were trying to get people to be on that P. Catch that T if you need it. And mysteriously, the 23andMe got hacked. Y'all don't think that Big Pharma, y'all don't think that Johnson & Johnson, McFiber, Pfizer, what's the name of that group? Pfizer. You don't think that Pfizer had something to do with this? Now, ladies and gentlemen, you guys are very intelligent. I mean, come on now. Come on now. I'm asking a question. I'm not saying, I'm asking. Because what a little old me know? What a little old tranny me know? Maybe the estrogen fucked my brain up. I don't know. I'm just saying, because by the way, I never took a 23andMe or any of those bullshits because I knew what was up. Hello. And that being another thing too. Hoes be swearing up and down that they spiritually conscious, but be doing the most dumbest shit. Y'all gotta explain shit to me. Y'all gotta really explain some shit to me. Hoes be so spiritually conscious. And when I was 19 years old, the Spirit of God came to me, and I'm a prophetess, and the Holy Spirit spoke to me, and the Spirit came to me when I was 9 months pregnant in 1983. And it's like, girl, so how the fuck you made dumbass decisions in 1985, 1987, 1991, 1995? Like, girl, was it the Holy Spirit? Or you just making shit up because you think the person to the story is fucking stupid as hell? Because they are. They are. Now, me, bitch, I'm gonna ask you questions. I'm gonna say, bitch, what's really going on here? Girl, ironically enough, y'all now all of a sudden in 2020, 2016, 2017, y'all want to basically see what people's bloodlines and shit is mysteriously, who they related to and shit. And we gonna help you find your long lost cousins. Y'all didn't have the technology in the 1970s and 80s. I mean, let's talk about it. Y'all came out with an iPhone before y'all came out with DNA to trace down people's relatives. Can we talk about it? Like, do y'all think they really be coming out with shit to help us or to help themselves? Like, think about it right now. Y'all think they be passing rules and laws to protect us and to help us, or to protect them and to help them? And that's really what it comes down to. 23andMe, yeah, girl, they're getting protected, girl. They made a lot of money, girl. They made a lot of money, girl. Girl, if it's what I think it is, okay, all this is alleged to prove it otherwise. Girl, breach of who? Who did y'all fire and y'all didn't change the process? Y'all didn't change your passwords and shit on. See, that's what it comes down to. Then the information. Girl, what information? You find out that most of the people in the South are actually from the South. Because see, I'm going to tell y'all right now, the history, and I told y'all there's histories of people being shipped in the 1800s from the South, but they were shipped through the Maryland port. Oh, y'all not ready for this type of teaching. They were shipped through the Baltimore port. They were shipped through the ports in the coastal lines of South Carolina, North Carolina. And they took their ass over to Africa in the 1800s. And then in fucking 2016, y'all asses over here doing DNA tests. Okay? And then you find out, oh, I have ancestors in Senegal, Cameroon. Of course you do, baby. For the past 200 and something years, your ancestors been migrating, fucking around, having babies. Girl, yeah, of course you got blood over there. You're not originally from there, though. But of course you got blood over there now. Because that's where we're shipping y'all to. They sent y'all over there. They were doing experimentations with y'all. They were fucking with y'all. They were splicing and switching up DNA. Girl, they said the average American, white American, not the average, we'll say this. I think it's like 30 or 40%. And of course, because a lot of white Americans right now, they're not from here. They're not from here like that. They barely came over the past 100 years. When those ships are coming from Europe, like the Titanic and shit. Let's talk about it for a minute. So a lot of people that are here now, they don't have, the ones who don't have African ancestry, it's because they're new to this country. Can we talk about it? They do an ancestry. They're like, yeah, in 1776, my great grandmother Elizabeth own shit over there in Europe and shit. It's like, but what happened between 1876 and 2016 then? Like, how does it jump from that to 1972? All of a sudden, y'all here, and that's where the history happened. Or you go, well, they don't really have knowledge of that, y'all, because there was a fire that happened in 1940, 1950. Girl, ironically enough, huh? So now there's no history of your birth or any of that, huh? Ironically. But a lot, they said 40% of white Americans have African ancestry. And y'all, I mean, girl, come on now. Come on now. And of course, it was intermingling and all that. Well, that's why they said they don't check the marker of the male because the male is going to show up white. So they check your mother DNA to see what your ancestor is because your mother does not carry the father. It's something like that, y'all. Don't get me into quoting and shit. Y'all got to look that shit up, honey. It's a very interesting how they do it. But I'm like, baby, their story, what they teach y'all is what they teach y'all. And then y'all be out here fight with people about opinions. Bitch, 23andMe got sued because of breach of contract, but girl, they're not the only ones that be doing shit for what I just said. Baby, they solved crimes, y'all, recently due to people taking people's DNA. And they'll reach out to someone and say, hey, we got your DNA sample back. Hello, this is Detective Irene. I'm reaching out to you because you got a 23andMe done. And your 23andMe came back with a strong marker connected to a serial killer in 1972 in Orange County. And then they go find out that the lady who did it was the girl's grandmother. And they go in there and arrest the grandmother. Now, see, that shit they be doing, y'all, that trifling that shit right there. But like I said, what do I know? What do I know, girl? Y'all give it to them willingly, they don't give up. Listen, y'all don't question shit, y'all just do shit. Anyway, you finish up, it's not mine, honey. Okay. Speaking of Native Americans, which star system did they work with? What does that mean? Star systems like what they with the Palladians, the Orions, because of course I think that's all tribal. I think that's all tribal. I think that, of course, going into the Big Dippers, going into, them knowing the sky, oh, that's the North Star, the South Star, and all that. Yes, but I think going into specific star systems, that's a tribal thing. Because, of course, you still have native practice, people that practice still. Because, of course, a lot of the Native American information has been, wiped down, washed away. A lot of information is not accurate. It's not real. They added shit on. Girl, you go look up in 1800s what Choctaw people look like. And you look at Choctaw people now, girl, mysteriously, they got lighter. They got lighter mysteriously. Honey, you can tell the Choctaw people from Sinaloa. Did we talk about it? Like that's how funny they start getting with this shit, y'all. Mixing and matching. I told y'all a story, well, not y'all, but I told someone privately. There was a story out there, y'all. There's many books out there, pre-colonizers, y'all, prehistoric, right? Before the colonizers and the conquistadors got into the Americas and Latin America. Now, and allegedly, Christopher Columbus never came to America. He went to the islands, y'all, allegedly. Like I said, we're not going to get into that. That's not my business. That'd be a longer conversation. But allegedly, there was a story of the conquistadors getting into Mexico. And when they got into Mexico, they were shocked to see Black people there. So what some of these people tried to do is, because they had systems and stuff set up, y'all, systems, right? Like judicials and, judges, officers and shit. So they still, they had people, over the land and all this stuff. Like I said, y'all, look into the sea, y'all. Look into the sea, okay? To get the verbatim tea. I guess one of the conquistadors or the settlers wanted to take over some land or a certain region, and he was not able to do so. And so what he ended up doing is he ended up going to and of course I believe I think he's a descendant, because I'm like this right now, as I'm talking about, I'm feeling like this is like the 17 or 1800s. In order for him to get into this land, he went to the Philippines and he got the native Philippines, who just so happened resembled or looked very close to the native Mexicans at this time, and he basically got this person to become, because it was either the servants of, or the owner itself had to be directly related to the previous owner of this land. And like I say, y'all, maybe I should come back to the story when I get the verbatim situation, y'all. But it was something along the lines of they end up going to the Philippines, getting indigenous people of the Philippines, brought them, they looked alike, and then that's how they basically took the land, stole the land, okay, and the possessions, and there you go. And then it kept growing. And then more of them start figuring out how to do that till they eventually, you know, wiped out the indigenous people of Mexico, and not all of them. But like I said, I think this is a regional thing. Like I said, I'm gonna get the story. I'm gonna come back and tell you the story, honey. Because girl, this is something that I read like maybe like 6-7 years ago. But I'm gonna come back because of course, girl, you know I tell you stories, girl. People think I make shit up, like going into that damn chicken breast thing, y'all. I still need to go get that. I'm gonna ask the lady. Matter of fact, I'm gonna ask her. She's an Italian woman, girl. She's a good woman. I'm gonna say, better yet, I know somebody who could be a witness. I know somebody who could be a witness. So I'm like, that might be a little weird, me getting somebody on recording to admit to the chicken being $3.50 and coming to find out it should have been $16, but they didn't change the price up on it. And they might be like, well, who are you sending this recording to? So maybe I ask them in front of somebody, or if they want to record it, they can. Maybe the witness can record it and they can get it. But yeah. But y'all, anyway, let me go. Baby, let me go, honey. I'm feeling myself drifting off. Tribal. Yes, honey. Tribes. Yes, honey. We know that different tribes had different belief systems. Jay, they all do not go by the same belief systems. We were kind of talking about this earlier today. I was having a conversation with my nail tech 2 days ago. And of course, we were talking about race and shit and how all humans are 99%. He's like, yeah, but the DNA is a little different because if not, some people wouldn't have allergic reactions. Some people wouldn't be lactose intolerant. And I'm telling him, do you not know that lactose intolerant and all this stuff is a regional thing? It's an ancestral thing. Do you know that? And it's a gene thing, right? Everybody has dormant genes in them right now. And this is what I'm trying to explain to this man who's a successful business owner, by the way. And he didn't know shit, but he was like, he's lactose intolerant. And I said, well, at a particular time, Asia, your part of Asia, Vietnam to be exactly, did not have cows. And if they did have cows, it was a different type of cow. The cow milk that you're consuming over here in America is not the same cow milk that your ancestors consumed over there in Vietnam, if they had cows in that region that y'all were in. So you're not lactose intolerant. You're intolerant to the milk that's here in America. And on top of that, lactose sometimes is an additive because that's sugar. Lactose is a sugar in milk. And they can filter that shit out. Can we talk about it? So you can still consume milk. And then, girl, he's getting into it. And then we start talking about my dogs. It's like, well, my dogs are very intelligent. Like they know, they know when it's time to do something. He said, yeah, because they're creatures of habitat. And I'm like, yeah, but they're still aware of the time. No, they just know what you say and they remember that. Honey, my dogs know that it's 12 o'clock. And let me tell you the weirdest thing about this. I don't feed them at the same time every day. Some days it's 7 o'clock. Some days it's 7:30, but it's always within that same hour. They both know when it's that time. And even going into a good example, there's treats, right? Can we talk about it? There's treats. Bella can eat these treats all day. Anubis can too. But they can walk by this area where these treats and stuff are at, and they won't even bother eating it. When the time comes that I normally give them their treat, like I said, it's not the same time every day. They know that it's time, and they start bugging the fuck out of me. Something in them definitely. And then, of course, like I said, he said, no, it's because, no, baby, that's what you're saying. If that's what you believe, that's what you believe. But animals or all beings are aware of time because, baby, going into hunting, how did these wolves And, the ancient dogs know when it was time to go hunting. How does the bears and the squirrels know when to go hibernate? Can we talk about it? Girl, they don't know winter from spring, summer from fall. They just know that there's a clock or something inside of them that's letting them know that something is going on. The same thing with our ancestors. They had no distraction. So whether you're a Lakota Indian, whether you're Choctaw, whether you're Zigzag, whether you're Lumadi, whether you're Cherokee, you have a different system, but you were still aware of the time and the seasons because you observed. It's called observation. You observed, okay, I know it's this time, it's this year, it's this season based on A, B, C, or G. Same thing with time for us. How do you know that today is Thursday and it's not the same day as yesterday? Because the sun just set and the sun really didn't set. It's went around the earth. How are you aware that today is actually Sunday when, like I said, it could be the same day and you just think it's a whole nother day? And gravity is what's changing you. So the gravity is getting stronger and stronger as time go on. And a lot of people can say that's true as well because they feel like time is being sped up. So all this will be true. But it's all about opinions. It's not about an eternal time, an eternal clock, an eternal awareness. So the same thing with that, star systems and stuff. I'm like, yeah, different ones believed in certain ones, some followed the position of the sun and the moon. When the moon did certain things, they knew that certain things happened. So they knew to, write that down and say, okay, well, we know at this time of the year, this moon normally comes out. So this is how we know it's the month of May. Or this is how we know it's the month of June, whatever. And then also going into, season stuff. They knew based on certain things that bloomed. They observed it, like I said, and it's amazing. You said it. Because native Filipinos look like the natives over there in Mexico, they were able to conquer. They were able to trick into thinking that, yeah, let me come back. Jay, I'm going to actually put a note for myself to remind myself to come back and talk about that because I know I've said that before and I end up forgetting what the hell I was coming back to talk about. We're going to come back and we're going to touch that. Because like I said, this was like 2018, maybe 2017. I was reading a book through Audible. Oh, I need to get on there tonight. Oh, not tonight, tomorrow, y'all. Ooh, that's what I'll be doing tomorrow. But anyway. Love and light. I'll be back, y'all. TrueSpiritMixer.blogspot.com. And baby, like I said, listen, we're coming back and we're coming through, okay? Anyway, bye for now, y'all. Sleep well.